All right, class. So today I want to model how to create some of these objects. I'm going to start with number one because it's a fairly simple shape and it's going to show us a lot of different options. So the first thing I want to do on number one is I want to confirm all the different dimensions of this object. So if I look at number one, I'm going to start counting. First, I want to know the scale. So if I tell you it's 1 and 1, that means that one box is 1 unit. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 5 tall. The width is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's 8 wide. The depth is 5 also. So 5 by 8 by 5. Let me double check. Yep, that seems right. Now I want to go through it and I want to calculate all these little dimensions. So this is 1 up here. This is, looks like 3, 1, 3 over here, and 3 over here. Looks like this is 6 wide, 2 here, 1.5, 1.5, 2 tall, and then 6 wide again, just like the front side. All right, so now I have all the dimensions. So now I'm ready to go ahead and start modeling this. So now that I'm done here, I can go back to Inventor and I'm going to use the same information. I'm going to go ahead and click on a new part because I want to create a part right now. I'm going to wait for it to load. As it does that, I'm thinking about how I want to do this. Do I want to start with the big block and cut out, or do I want to go shape by shape? So I'm going to show you two different methods of doing this. Okay, so I have my new part ready. So now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to start by creating a 2D sketch. Very first thing you want to do. The plane you want to pick is, you have the YZ plane, the XY plane, and the XZ plane. It doesn't really matter which one it is. I always start with the XY plane, and I'm telling you it is the best one to start with, just because it's going to make it easier to make modifications later. But now what I do is, now that I've started this sketch, I want to start sketching this object. So I'm going to start the way I like to do it, which is to kind of just draw out the shape generically. I want to start at the origin, and you always want to try to start your shape at the origin, and then I'm going to draw basically a rough kind of outline of the front view. You'll notice that it locks into place. Now I right click and click OK. So I've created an L, and the reason why I've done that is because if you notice the front of this object, which is this front facing side, this right here, is going to be an L. Now I can go back and I can actually add dimensions to it. So I'm going to go ahead and click the dimensions, and I'm going to use the dimensions that I used earlier, and I have two options when dimensioning. I can either go from left to right side and then click again, and that was 8 wide. So you'll notice that 8 wide now. Or I have the option of just clicking on the line itself. So this line I said was 2 wide. This line inherently would have to be 6 if this is from here to here. It's 8. But there's still a couple green lines, and you'll notice, why are some blue and some green? Well, if it's green, it's telling you that you still need some dimensions in order to constrain this part. And they're right, I haven't fully dimensioned this object. I've done everything for the width, but I haven't done anything for the height. I haven't told this object how tall it's going to be. So it needs to be 5 units tall. Now all of a sudden one of the greens turns to blue. Well, the very last one, just like we said, I have to dimension this side. And we said that was 2 tall. Now you'll notice that it says fully constrained. This part is fully dimensioned. There's no other way to dimension this still without over dimensioning. Let's say you did over dimension though, and you wanted to say that this was 3. You'll notice it already says 3. And if I click on it, it says adding this dimension will over constrain. So you always want to cancel. If you're fully constrained, leave it there. So now that I've got this front view and this 2D shape, I can go ahead and finish sketch. So I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to see my part. Now that I have a 2D sketch, you'll notice that it says sketch 1 here. I'm going to go ahead and extrude this part. And I don't want to do it out from the object. I always want to go in the opposite direction. So there's a couple options. You can click on this button and go in the opposite direction. I want it to go away from me. And when you extrude, you really almost always want it to go away from you because it's going to make it easier for you to modify. What was the depth? Well, the total depth of this was 5 units. So I'm going to go all the way back. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now you see when I click back, all of a sudden in this browser bar, the sketch turned into an extrusion. An extrusion meaning that it's a 3D shape now. But it's not quite what I want. I want it to look like this. So what's the difference between what I have and what they have? Well, it's the fact that there's these little cuts here. There's a void space there. So now I've done the additive property where I've gone ahead and created a box, but now I want to cut out. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new sketch. Well, if I click on this face, where are these cuts? They're right here and they're right here. So if I click on a sketch, now what I'm doing is I'm creating a plane. I'm creating a drawing plane right here where I can draw a new shape, a new 2D shape. Well, what is it that I wanted to cut out? Basically, I wanted to cut out a rectangle out of it. So I'm going to use the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to draw some random rectangle for now. I'm going to go back and dimension it. So I'm going to say this was too wide. They're still green. How tall was that rectangle I wanted to cut out? It was based on my count. Oh, I didn't actually do that earlier. Let me do it now. 1, 2, 3, 4. It was 4 in. That's still green. Why is it green? I already dimensioned the height and the width. Well, that's because I haven't dimensioned how far from this object it has to be. It was 1.5 in this direction. Now that I've done that, well, if this object is already 5 wide, this is 1.5, this is 2, then this has to be 1.5. It's fully constrained. And even if I wanted to, again, even if I wanted to dimension this, it's going to be over constrained. So now I've drawn the rectangle I want to cut out, and I'm going to go ahead and finish sketch. Now, if I go to extrude and I click this rectangle, I could extrude into the object, out of the object and create more bulk. But what happens if I switch directions? Interesting. It actually cuts out mass. Do I want to go 5 units down? Not really. It's only too tall, although it doesn't really matter because I'm cutting through air. So whether I do 2 or 5, it doesn't actually matter. So let me show you guys that again. If I extrude and then I click on this, if I go in the other direction, whether it's 2 or whether it's 5, you're cutting air regardless. What does matter is if you pick something smaller. If I pick 1, then it's not going to cut all the way through. So you want to pick at least a dimension that's bigger than what you're cutting. I always try to keep it exact because, you want to try to get to, you don't want to create a cut that's bigger than you need. So that looks good. I can click the green checkbox. So I'm almost there. Last one, and I could have done this on the last sketch if I wanted to, but I'm just trying to show you guys. I'm going to create another sketch up here, and I'm going to do it on this face for this one, just to show you the difference. Now I'm going to draw here. I basically want a rectangle. I'm going to select so that it lines up with the top. I know it looks something like that. I'm going to dimension it quickly. I know it's 3 wide. I know it was 1 tall. I drew it perfectly. Oh no. 1 tall. And I knew it was how far away from this side? 1 away. There we go. I can finish sketch. I can click extrude. I select the shape I want to extrude. I don't want it to go in that direction. I want it to go in the other direction. It's 2 back. Boom. And I'm done. And there's my shape. And that's our very first 3D model.